So it's just been a sucky day. There's really no other way to say it. Today sucked.
Hey guys, it's Brian, and I just wanted to talk to you about something that I don't really see discussed a lot, and that's how to prepare yourself mentally for the trail. So I first thought about doing a video like this when I was coming off the Priest. I think I mentioned it in the vlog, but I'm glad I waited because after the trail I picked up two really good books. The first one I picked up at MIT when me and Pacer went there after the trail, and it's called Great by Choice by Jim Collins and Morton Hansen. It's about businesses and why some of them do very, very well. And it's got some really good stories in there that are very applicable to hiking. And the second book I just finished, I kind of dragged it out, but I finished it. It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And both these books are kind of about personal growth and business, but they both offer some good lessons, I think, that could really benefit a lot of people in their through hike. So the first one I want to talk about is in Great by Choice. It's actually chapter 3, and it's actually entitled 20-Mile March, which is very applicable to through hiking. And basically what he's saying is be consistent in your actions. Don't go, start off going 30 miles one day, then take a break, and then go 10, and then go 40, and then take a break again. Because eventually some stuff is going to happen, and you're just not going to build good habits. And so I can kind of relate to that a lot too, because in Vermont, I hadn't had a 30-mile day yet, and I was just, okay, I'm going to have a 30-mile day today. So I pushed over, I think was it Glastonbury that's in Vermont, and then Stratton, and I should not have done that. I did my 30-mile day, but for well into Maine for a while, I had like runner's knee and I was hurting, which I probably could have avoided had I not done a 30-mile day. And then even like the guys I was hiking with caught up with me like 2 days later. So again, to help them to be consistent, whereas I was inconsistent and it hurt me. So additionally, keeping to your 20-mile day goals, or whatever your goal is, it doesn't have to be 20 miles, that's just figurative. But keeping to that goal builds confidence, and it reduces the likelihood of catastrophe. Because as long as you keep pushing, you're not going to be stagnant, you're not going to be staying in town, you're not going to be pushing and exerting yourself. And additionally, you got to make sure you have clear performance markers. For me, I knew what my timeline was. Secondly, you want to have self-imposed constraints. And what he means by that is know when you've gone too far. For me, 30 miles, I should have known that was too far, especially for the terrain. 30 miles on a nice flat area would have been great. But I was going over 2 fairly large mountains that day, and I knew my constraints, it wasn't good, but I just pushed on anyways. And lastly, it's got to be appropriate to your specific enterprise. So again, it might not be 20 miles a day for you. For me, like a good day was always between like 18 and 24 for me, I remember that. And so I should have stuck just kind of that goal and it would have been fine. The 20-mile march guideline, it helps build confidence. I knew I always wanted to stay above 18. Just because anything below and I just wouldn't be satisfied with my production that day. And it also reduces the likelihood of catastrophe. So like with my 30-mile day, and I had a lot of pain, especially through the whites, and that's not a good place to have pain in your knees. So if I'd stuck between the 18 and 24 miles, I most likely would not have had knee pain. And then also, it helps exert self-control and influence over areas. On the trail you don't have a lot of control over or influence over the environment around you. So Collins also talks about a thing called productive paranoia. And basically, for me, for the hiker, how this translates is know what your next out is. Know where the next town, next road, next hostel, next shelter, next water, know the weather, and then know your finances. So, and what you should do with this information, zoom out, look at the weather, look at your finances, look at the water situation, your water, and then zoom in and figure out, okay, when am I going to need water next? What's the weather coming? How much food do I have? Do I need to get into town? And make a plan and execute it to perfection, so that way you don't have to waste money or waste time or, waste just your through hike doing something that you could have prevented. So the last thing Collins talks about in this book is the return on luck. And in all the businesses that he looked at, and the ones that did really well, the ones that did really bad. He couldn't find any distinction in how often they received a lucky or unlucky event. So during your thru hike, be able to capitalize on different things. You might just think that you're lucky that someone offers you trail magic, or that someone's offering you a ride to town or to stay at their place, but really it's probably because you worked on it. I remember with Guac, he had a GoFundMe, and so he'd be getting money from strangers, and we'd be like, man, you're so lucky, but in reality, Guac had a plan in place to receive money from strangers, so it wasn't luck that was on Guac's side, it was his own work that was on his side, and he was able to capitalize on his thru hike by having people donate money for it, and he was able to buy us dinner, he was able to pay for his hostel stays and a lot of his food just through crowdsourced money. So I don't really advocate crowdsourcing for a thru hike, but at the same time, just for trail magic, it's not so much luck, it's that you've put yourself in a place to get it. So all in all, Great by Choice by Jim Collins, I highly recommend it. I bought another one of his books, I haven't read it yet, but I plan on reading a few of them more, because just his writing style really connects with me. So now for Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So the number one thing in this book talks about being proactive. And I mean, we all kind of are proactive in our own senses, but I mean, what does being proactive even means? It means, you know, take the initiative and act, don't be acted upon. So again, you see the weather coming in, you need to be proactive. You see that you don't have much water, be proactive. And this, like, the biggest thing for me was, like, at night, I would get water instead of in the morning. It always just kind of worked out better for me. Listen to your internal monologue. You're going to tell yourself a lot, you know, this trail sucks, or, you know, why are the shelters always full, crowded, why are there always so many people here? But instead, kind of listen to that and then kind of ask yourself a different question, like, so what can I do to change my experience? Can I lighten my load? Can I go slower? Should I spend a day or two in town? Should I change up my food? So, you know, focus on your internal monologue. Be proactive. Don't just react to the trail being bad. Be proactive. Take initiative and change your experience yourself. And then also focus on your circle of concern and your circle of influence. So there's a lot of things that concern you, but you don't always have influence over all those things. But being proactive, it expands your circle of influence to almost meet that of the circle of concern. And he talks about this all in the book. And I highly recommend reading it because it's kind of hard to illustrate more without reading it. But essentially, the more proactive you are, the more influence you have over the world around you. And so next, for the 7 habits, Covey also talks about 4 types of activities. There's crisis, there's prevention, there's interruptions, and then there's busy work or pleasant activities. They're kind of combined. So what Covey tries to get across is basically focus on the preventative activities. That way you're not focusing on the crisis or interruptions activities. And then you have more space in your life for the busy work or pleasant activities. So if you focus on things like hygiene or bear bagging or filtration, the preventative activities on your thru hike, you won't have to focus on like crisis as much, like bears coming into camp or broken equipment, or like interruptions such as, you know, like mice coming around or getting sick, or, you know, trees falling down if you're not picking good campsites. And then you have more time to focus on like busy work or pleasant activities such as trail journals or vlogging or side trails or just hanging out with the trail family. So, you know, just focus and keep thinking, what can I do to improve my experience? That's kind of what I got out of the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was just keep thinking how to improve yourself, how to improve your gear, and how to improve your thru hike. So lastly, I want to share with you 2 pieces of advice that kind of focus on resiliency. I learned these in the Army. We had this thing called Master Resiliency Training, and like every month we just had these points hammered into us just for the sake of training and making us better people. So the first thing that really spoke to me, first time I learned it in basic training, was hunt the good stuff, stay positive. You know, you get the opportunity to thru hike the trail. You know, you've made it so far already, whether it just be planning or you made it to Atlanta or to Mount Katahdin or like Harper's Ferry, you've made it that far already, keep going. And you know, you have people cheering for you. For me, it was my family, my friends, you guys, my subscribers. It really made the effort worth it for me. So again, when you catch yourself having a negative mindset, hunt the good stuff. Focus on the positives in your life, and there's always going to be something positive, especially on the trail. You might, you know, have town coming up in a day, and then you have a lighter pack because your pack ideally you should have very little food in it when you're going into town. So focus on that. You have a light pack, great, make some miles. You know, when it's hot, it's probably not raining. So hey, you know, it's not raining right now. When it's raining, hey, it's not hot. So you know, you just gotta focus on the good stuff. Lastly, don't catastrophize. It sounds like a made-up word, but essentially it's just kind of spiraling things out of control, even though none of it's happened yet. So you might be in a lightning storm and thinking, I'm gonna die. There's no making it out of this alive. I should have written my will before I came out here. So don't get caught in that. A good step to doing this, or to help you to avoid catastrophizing, is think of the worst scenario first, and then think of the best scenario, and then think of the most likely scenario. What's most likely going to happen realistically? And that way, it puts the worst scenario furthest from your mind, and it puts a positive best scenario in front of that, and then you have the most likely scenario, most recent. So focus on the most likelies. And then also, again, basic training I guess was a real formative time for me. And one of the quotes that I kept thinking of while I was on the trail was from a drill sergeant of another platoon but in my company. And we were on this run, and despite having a runner's body, I don't like to run at all. And it was, I guess, pretty apparent because he was looking at a lot of us like we were all about to die. And essentially he just told us the whole formation while we were running. He said, your body will always do more than your mind will allow. And because in my mind, he knew that we were all psyching ourselves out. We can't do this. You know, I'm not a good runner. I'm not a good hiker. I'll never make it to Katahdin or Springer or Harper's Ferry or to the next shelter. But just know your body will carry you. And you just got to put your mind in a locker sometimes and just kind of zone out and just keep walking. And so with that, I want to end the video. I want to thank you all for watching. Hopefully this helped out the class of 2018 and future thru hikers alike. It helped me a lot, and hopefully I can pass it on to you. So thank you. Good luck, everyone.
I mean, just when bad weather like that happens, like yesterday, it's just, I don't know, it just sucks the life out of me, and I don't enjoy it. And if I can't enjoy it, what's the point of being out here? So on days that you can enjoy it, you really got to take advantage of it, I think, just to help kind of overset the bad days. So yeah, I'll probably talk a little bit more about that